Hello everyone, my name is Michael, and this is a closer look at the Kingsong 16XS, my second PEV and my first electric unicycle in my journey to energy independence. Like I said in the first episode, I got this shortly after I graduated college to replace my Segway 9Bot S. I needed something that could go a little bit faster, that could go a little bit further, and that just wasn't as degraded as the Segway was at that point. So I picked up this Kingsong 16XS from Yuko, and it advertises pretty good specs. It has a 35 to 40 mile range with a 777 watt-hour battery pack. That makes approximately 19 watt-hours per mile. You can get these from Yuko right now for about $1,400, and I will leave a link below if you think that you might want to pick one up after you watch this closer look, of course. Electric unicycles are much harder to learn than the Segway is, for the simple reason that they only have one wheel. You have to actually balance not just forward and back, but also side to side, which adds an extra layer of complexity. So unlike the Segway, which took me about 5 minutes to learn how to use and use comfortably, this took a little bit more time of dedicated practice to figure out how to use it. I spent about an hour in my apartment parking lot figuring out how to ride it, and then after an hour, I was comfortable enough to ride the 2 miles to work. I certainly wasn't going very fast, and I did not max it out for quite a while, but now that I've had it for a few years and have put almost 850 miles on it, I am comfortable enough to give it some speed. As you can see, unlike with the Segway, I am wearing a helmet. Because of the speeds that these things can go up to, it is highly recommended to wear full motorcycle gear. So the pads, the helmet, like a full face helmet, all of the protective stuff. I'm only on this little trail going pretty slowly, so I'm only gonna wear this little helmet. One of the reasons that I like this helmet is because it lights up. If you guys want to see more of what it does, it's got blinkers and stuff. I can make maybe a short about this little Laval helmet, but that's not what this video is about. To protect you even more, this device also has safety features similar to the Segway. If you start going over the speed limit, it will initiate a slight tilt back, not as aggressive as the Segway, but it will initiate tilt back, and it will verbally say to slow down. I talked about crashing on the Segway, so I might as well talk about how I've crashed on this. I'm not going to talk about where I've stepped off because I've lost my balance or any of the times that I fell while I was learning, but there are 2 big crashes that I can remember, one of which was completely my fault, the other one was just a fluke. The first one, that was bad, was when I was on my way to lunch on my break from work. I was heading down the street, I was trying to get to a restaurant, I didn't know exactly where it was, so I pulled out my phone to make sure I was going the right way. I was on a pretty straight stretch of sidewalk, there wasn't anyone coming, so I was like, okay, cool, I have time to look at my phone real quick before I'm gonna have to worry about something happening. But as I glanced up from my phone, I noticed that there was a curb that I had not seen before. And I was going too fast and was too inexperienced at that point to be able to slow down fast enough or avoid the curb. So I just hit the curb going probably 15 miles an hour maybe. I flew off into the grass and the wheel just kind of tumbled after me. I'm glad that that's all that happened because I was right next to a road and I know how to fall. I'm pretty comfortable with spills, so I wasn't too worried about myself. But I was more concerned about the wheel tumbling into the road that I was riding next to and hitting a car or getting hit by a car or causing some kind of damage, or even just being something that someone tries to avoid and causing an accident. It was a great lesson to not look at my phone while I'm riding, except for right now, obviously, as I film this, but I'm not looking down. The time that I crashed because of the fluke was I was on my way to somewhere else. I was on a road because there weren't any sidewalks, and I had just pulled off to the side and stopped to let some cars pass me. After the cars had passed me and I prepared to start going again, I stepped up onto the pedal, but I stepped my foot a little too far forward. So my foot came down on the very front of the pedal, which threw off my balance and caused me to crash. Fortunately, there was no one else around. Again, I know how to fall, and I was just starting to move, so I wasn't going very fast. So everything was pretty much fine. It was just more embarrassing than anything else, but again, there wasn't anyone around, so no one saw it. A couple cool features of this wheel are its LED lights. It has them in a couple different places. It has a automatic headlight, which you can also set. It has 3 different settings, and the brake lights. It also has a built-in Bluetooth speaker that you can connect to your phone and play music. It can also function as a power bank. It has 2 USB ports in the front that you can use to charge other devices. Another cool feature that this has is the Trolley Bar. Most EUCs have some version of it, but the version that this has is basically like a suitcase handle. You can just pop it up and then you can drive it around with your hand so you don't have to bend over and push it. As I said in the first episode, one of the reasons that I really like this is that it's so portable. There's a lot of bike options these days that can fold in half to be more portable, but then you still have to try to figure out where you're gonna store that or take it inside. This thing is so small and so compact that I can pick it up really easily, and I can also throw it in the sub-trunk in the Tesla. Let's talk about a little bit of maintenance. Now, I didn't talk about the Segway much because there really is no maintenance other than filling it up with air, which is not very hard. This thing, the maintenance is a little bit more complicated every once in a while. So somehow my tire went flat, and since there's only one of them, that's kind of a big deal. I had to replace the inner tube because it just was not filling up. And so I had to learn how to replace the tire on an electric unicycle. And I will admit, it's kind of complicated. You have to unscrew the entire motor, pull out the wheel, and then you can take off the inner tube and replace it. Unfortunately, I got the wrong type of inner tube, and the intake valve points out at the wrong angle. I noticed that the old inner tube had an angled valve. I didn't think the direction of the angle mattered, but it does. The valve is supposed to be angled parallel to the wheel, so it flows nicely around the rim. And I could have bought one from Yuko, the same company that I bought the wheel itself from. However, I thought that I could find a cheaper one on Amazon, and so I ended up with the wrong thing. It angles, sure, but it angles perpendicular to the rim, which means that it just kind of scrapes along the inside of the wheel all the time. At least it used to. It's worn down enough now where it doesn't make the noise anymore. But I'm not entirely sure everything is still okay. The other problem that I've had recently is the lift sensor. If you pick it up from the trolley handle, it will deactivate the motor so it doesn't just start free spinning. But recently I've been having this weird problem where it'll just cut out even if I'm not lifting it up. So it'll just stop balancing, and I don't really know why. There are ways in the KingSong app and also in the EUC World app, which I will show later, to deactivate that lift sensor so it's just always trying to balance itself, and that's what I've currently done, but I might have to look into replacing that lift sensor if it starts to be more of a problem. Like I mentioned earlier, there are a couple different apps that you can use to control and see the specs and the riding data of an electric unicycle. The KingSong app, which obviously is made by the same company, is honestly not as good. It is an Asian-based company, and so not all of the translations are good, and the support is a little rough, and I'm not actually sure how often it gets updated. But the EUC World app is very good. It is designed to be used with any electric unicycle, or at least most electric unicycles, and it makes finding a lot more details a lot easier. When I do the range test later, that is what I'm going to be using, and I will show all of the data that it tracks. Other than the data, all of the controls you can pretty much do from either app. So you can do things like change the colors, you can turn on and off the headlights, you can control the volume of the safety features and the speed at which the safety features kick in, so you can have kind of 3 warnings before you actually reach that top speed or something like that. I am very happy with this electric unicycle. It was perfect for my use case of getting to and from work while I lived close by, and now that I have a Tesla and have to plug in at different places, it is perfect for going from the charger to my work and back to the car. And it's just a lot of fun. It is very thrilling while not being too fast to make it insanely dangerous, and yet it's still fast enough to go on most side roads and keep up with traffic. One thing that I do have a bigger problem with now than I did with the Segway is slow speeds. On the Segway, like I showed, you could just stand still on it and be fine. On this thing, it is very hard to be completely still and keep up with walking traffic. And I know that's kind of a size of a wheel thing, like the bigger the wheel, the harder it is to do that, I'm pretty sure. But it certainly took me a long time to be able to go even the speed that I'm going right now without falling over. And it took me even longer to be able to stop and just hold it on one foot without having to actually grab it and hold on to it. This is a little bit of a higher barrier to entry for PEVs than the Segway, at least skill-wise. It takes a little bit longer to learn, and there's a little bit more nuance to it. You have to learn how to control things like death wobbles, which are a big thing in biking and motorcycles. That wasn't a thing on the Segway because it has two wheels side by side. Whereas on this thing, if you start going too fast, it might start shaking on you a little bit, and then you just have to know what to do. But once you put in the time and effort to learn how to use it and use it well, it is very versatile. Because the wheel is so big, you can drop off pretty high curbs, you can pop up curbs without having to grab it like I would with the Segway. You can deal with some pretty big bumps and holes in grass and off-roading. And then if you really need to, you can just step off, pull up the trolley handle, and just walk it along with you wherever you're going. Once again, because it's so small, you can just bring it into stores and onto buses and whatever, and just kind of keep it with you. I mean, it's about the size of a small suitcase, height-wise, and it's pretty thin, so most places don't really mind if you bring them in. I would recommend this for anyone who has a small commute. My commute was about 2 miles when I was going to and from work, but I've also ridden it about 10 miles, and again, its range is 30 to 40 miles, depending on if you're flooring it the whole time. So it's got a really good range for a commute, or if you just like a little joyride. Like I said, it can keep up with traffic on side roads, so you can ride it just kind of around, and it's a lot of fun. Alright, so I'm out on the range test right now. I've been riding for a little under an hour, and I just wanted to stop for a second because my feet are hurting. So that is one thing. Some electric unicycles have a seat on the top. This one does not. It is just the trolley bar handle, so you cannot sit down, which does make longer rides a little more uncomfortable. There are different foot pedals that you can get and different pads on the wheel itself to kind of hug your legs better, so you don't have to you don't have to squeeze your legs as hard, which would certainly relax my feet a little bit more. But I just wanted to stop in and say that is something that starts happening if you ride it for an extended period of time. So I'm gonna keep going, but wanted to stop in and say that. I finished up with the range test last night and was going through the data logged by EUC World this morning. It was a lot of data, like thousands of lines of spreadsheet data. So I took the data, put it into Grok AI, and had it give me an overview of the information. Some disclaimers for the test. I did not ride to 0%. That was the plan, but I was honestly just tired of riding, which is good. The battery should exceed the distance that you are willing to ride in any vehicle, so that's great. Like I said in that clip, some of them do have seats, and those are the ones that are bigger that can go further, and that makes perfect sense. But this one doesn't have a seat, so it really shouldn't go that much further than what I was riding. And as you can see, the distance and time that I rode, that all makes sense. The path that I rode was pretty much the same as the one that I took the Segway on, and I was riding at just kind of a comfortable speed. So I wasn't trying to max it out all the time, although it did happen a couple times, and I wasn't at a crawling pace. So it was just kind of how I felt the terrain and the curves should be treated. So with all that said, let's get into the data. The overall test was 2 hours and 8 minutes long. Now, I took some breaks, as you could see in that clip, but my actual ride time was 1 hour and 51 minutes. I traveled a total distance of 21.3 miles with a max speed of 27 miles an hour and an average overall speed of about 12 miles an hour. I took the battery from 100% to 29%, which is an efficiency of 25.85 watt-hours per mile. It's a little worse than what the advertised efficiency is, but as you get lower in battery and it lowers your max speed, it might balance out in the end. With that data said, let's finish up the video. So if this seems like something that you would be interested in, again, I will leave a link to this exact model down below, but if you don't like the specs or want to see what else they have, check out Yuko. They are kind of the destination for all electric unicycles, so look around, see what you might want. Well guys, that is going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed this deep dive into the King Song 16XS, please leave a like. If you want to see the next part of the journey, which will be a deep dive into the Tesla and some of the accessories and mods that I have put on it, please subscribe. But until then, thank you so much for coming with me on this journey, and I will see you next time on this journey to energy independence.